all, this is Owen Tuboku and
Jarek the Jackass.
we come to you with another review, and this time again we are back at it. I didn't bring it with me this time, but you will probably see it again one of these other times. It's basically coming at you with Fullmetal Alchemist Brotherhood, episode 23, Girl on the Battlefield, which I was curious about that title, but I guess it's sort of a double structure standard. One talking about Winry, I guess the other talking about pretty much Lanfan, and still think it's a weird title, but it works for this episode.
Well, if you think about it, it could also apply to Riza Hawkeye, because she's been on the battlefield a couple times during this particular run, so honestly, could be her too, because she's in the episode as well.
Well, see, that's what makes it weird, because other than picking up Gluttony, she was pretty much didn't do much.
Except for getting in Gluttony's way, helping the commander coordinate.
Well, yeah, and she did shoot Scar in the knee, so very lucky. But it's like, or you could also put in Xiaomei or Lin Mei or whatever the heck that little girl's name is. Alright, did I write it down? Mei Chang, really? Alright, Mei Chang. I didn't think that's what her name was.
And her adorable little panda.
Yep, because those are the actress's names. So yeah, Mei Chang. Alrighty. Well, but either way, to go about it, the episode starts off where you still have Edward with Winry, and basically she says Edward says he has to go help his brother fight Scar, and he wants Winry to go with the soldiers, and Edward takes off. Winry is still feeling down. She couldn't shoot Scar. She feels bad about it. Not that she couldn't shoot him, but the fact that a thought popped into her head. And as well, she starts thinking, she has little flashbacks of Edward, of him walking away again. And it happens twice in this episode, but she imagines him walking away again for one more time. And then she's like, all I can do is wait. So again, with her thinking that all she does is waiting, and that's all she's really good for, which is a sad thing, because we know as a character she does way more than that. But again, this is her feelings at the time. And we have where Alphonse and Scar duking it out, and they're basically fighting in the train yard and on top of a water tower. And basically, Scar knows, you have nothing in that body, your soul's transmuted. Why do you keep fighting? There's no point, because even as you're doing this, you're just a tool, you're a slave, you are a sin against God.
Well, and I think he also said, look at what your worship of alchemy has done to you. Now you're just a soul in an empty can. And I love Alphonse's response, whether in Japanese or English. He basically says, yes, I may only be a soul in a body, but Big Brother Al was able to use it to keep me alive. And look at all the people I've been able to help with it. You only see the negatives of alchemy, even though you yourself are using it. I prefer to see the possibilities of the good it can do. And it's honestly a very interesting, what's it called, to and fro between them. Because, Al basically lost his whole body, but in a sense, he's remained the kindest, sweetest, and most hopeful, optimistic person in the whole anime. Scar only lost his arm. Yeah, he lost his village and his bro. But now he's basically a living conduit of alchemy, and what does he do? It's just like, I'm going to kill bitches.
Yeah, just for forces of destruction. But as Jarek said, interesting callback, because we even had Scar's master and or teacher who survived and said, do you think this is what your brother really would have wanted? Do you think this is what your parents, the village, do you think this is what we also would want? So everybody knows who's an Ishvalan says, yes, it's terrible what happened, it shouldn't have happened, but this quest for vengeance will consume you. And again, it's going to be brought up again later in fuller detail. But,
if you think about it, this little to and fro between Al and Scars even more meaningful because Al literally lost damn near everything except for his brother. I mean, he's basically just a soul in a tin can, but he doesn't use his alchemy to kill, he uses it to give back to everyone. Whereas Scar, who has so much more, despite all things he's lost, is literally using alchemy to just tear through everything, to just take as was taken from him. It kind of reminds me of like Cain and Abel almost.
Well, that's very well made point.
Yeah, because I mean, Al's the younger brother. Scar was, I believe, the older brother. He lost his younger brother. He goes on a homicidal killing spree. Al's older brother saves him. He decides to give back to the people.
Well, yeah. Well, again, you look at that too, because if you remember, I think it was episode 12 or 13 or whichever episode, or no, it was before that. It was 8 or 9, but it's where Scar attacked him, and we learned that like Edward said, oh, you only have the destructive phase, so. Funny enough for a character who's just on a way of vengeance and killing that he only has the destructive part of alchemy on him. He doesn't have the reconstructive part, which is what they have: creation, destruction, and reconstruction.
And it's also even now that I think about it, Scar harkens back to Cain even more because if I remember in the story, God placed a mark upon Cain's forehead so that all people would know who he was. And he would never again be able to work the land because all that he would touch would decay at his touch. And if I kind of sounds like Mr. Kill the Alchemists.
Yep, and so that's basically what it is. You also have Edward get there, and they're duking it out with each other and they're fighting. During this fight, it's still ringing. During this fight, however, you have Scar and Ling Yao still battling it out with Gluttony at Scar's side. Lan Fan is still injured. They escape using the smoke bombs and other things. And, you have you have Ling Yao carrying Lan Fan, trying to run as fast as they can. And you have, Scar going, or not Scar, Bradley going, this is such a nuisance. Come on, Gluttony. We have to end this and get the Scar as quick as they can, because they know Scar's still causing the ruckus, and they want to get him out of the way.
Yeah, so I believe he tells Gluttony to chase after Scar, and he'll go after Ling Yao. Yeah,
so he has Gluttony chase after Scar, and he's going to finish up things with Ling Yao. But as Bradley's chasing after Ling Yao, being nonchalant or cool about it, depending on the English or Japanese translations, you have Lan Fan is saying, you can't be weighed down. How are you going to help your people? And, I'm a burden to you. And then, I don't even want to think about how she did it. But, like Jarek said, she probably hacked into her arm quite a bit. But,
Well, before that, Ling Yao replies, don't be foolish. A king is nothing if he doesn't have people in his kingdom there to support him. Like, the king is only there because of the people. And then he notices she's going for her kunai, and the scene before makes it look like she's going for her throat, to give him a reason to not keep carrying this, as she sees it, dead weight and save himself. But yeah, as he said, she cuts off her arm, and she plays it's interesting how why she does it because, they both know Bradley's after them. He's already a badass, and with that eye of his, she knows it's not going to be very hard for him to track her no matter what Ling Yao tries.
Yes, and as we see how does this happen, we have Bradley catching up to them, and they get caught into an alleyway where they're stuck, and that's when she says she's gonna. Well, not when she says, but she cuts off her arm, which we think again she's gonna do something else, but then we see her arm and just it's sort of like flailing around on the screen, just sort of like that, and then all of a sudden, Bradley gets there, he's wide-eyed, and then...
Well, no, she tied it to a dog, and the dog was carrying it
I know, but, remember Bradley comes around the corner, we don't see what it is, and then, we have, Ling Yao come out of the damn sewers to attack Gluttony, but before we get to what he did, Lan Fan tied it to a dog, and then Ling Yao gave her his shirt to tie around her arm, and she's walking around the sewers all bloodied and missing an arm. And Yeah, again, I don't want to know what she fucking had to do because you probably can cut off your body part with a kunai knife, but it has to be painful and very hard. And I know people say, Zach, you shouldn't debate it. It's an anime. I know, but even though it's an anime, I want to know how the fuck she did that so quickly. And yikes.
Well, not only that.
Because that was not a clean cut.
Well, you have to imagine with how short the blade is, she would have to chop and hack. And
yeah.
Now she's in the sewers, so there's a good chance that arm will get infected if she doesn't get medical attention fast enough. But there we go, adding realism to anime again.
Basically to like quote a horror movie. Hello, Lanfan. I want to play a game. It says there's so many hacks you can take to your arm with a kunai. Care to lose your other arm and debate it? Live or die, Lanfan. Make your choice. but either way, that's almost like a Saw game. It's like, But I don't want to even think about what the fuck she did. But either way, yeah, Ling Yao comes out of the sewers, starts hacking away at Gluttony, and like while he's doing so, stuffs a grenade in his mouth to where he's like, whoa, and then all of a sudden just explodes.
I mean, it's great, man. He's like he's going full Batman Arkham City on him, you know, just dodging, weaving in and out, and then he just jumps on him. Bloop, it's like nothing moves up. Boom!
And then you know he's asking for Edward to make some bands to hold Gluttony. So Edward goes over to the train tracks. You know, he alchemizes some train rails, and they tie Gluttony up with basically steel cables, which very well played. You know, because like Gluttony, you know, he's reforming thanks to his Philosopher's Stone, and you know he's coming together. But as he's coming together, he's all tied up in the metal cables, and you know they're holding him. And then all of a sudden, you know, Edward and Alphonse think they're going to deal with Scar, but then along comes. Oh yes, I forgot this little bit. You have the hell right here, Zach. What is the thing here? Oh, Riza Hawkeye, and also Roy Mustang. They're finalizing their plans. Riza Hawkeye is getting in a costume to where she's not going to look the same, but basically she comes riding up in a Studebaker vehicle or Jeep, and basically shoots Scar in the knee. Scar goes down, so he can't, do anything. Scar was actually not fighting the Elric brothers. He was actually amazed that there was a homunculus right in front of him, because he started attacking Gluttony when Gluttony came out of nowhere, and he's like, I found you, Ishvalin! And,
oh, and it was great, too, because I love how he, like, put his hand, like, Gluttony was going for, like, that big-ass body splash. He just kind of, like, lightly sidesteps it, places his hand on his back, and you just see Gluttony just cough up all this blood. But then, of course, you know, he just regenerates, he just gets back up. Ishvalin!
Yeah, that creepy smile, and then he basically shoulder checks, flipping Scar into a train container, and he's like, yeah, you know, and like all that crap. And then that's when Ling Yao comes out of the sewers. But yeah, Riza Hawkeye shows up, shoots Scar in the knee, Scar goes down, and then Lanfan showing feats Ling Yao showing feats of strength, lifts up Gluttony and throws him in the back of the car. You know, you have Edward and Alphonse going, the hell's going on here? And then, like, all of a sudden, you know, they run off and go, and, you have Edward and Alphonse wanting to continue the fight with Scar. Riza Hawkeye's trying to get out of Dodge as fast as she can, but Ling Yao convinces Hawkeye to go save Lanfan or she's going to die, you know, and I don't mean to make the stereotypical point, but Ling Yao's eyes are open, showing the seriousness of her wanting to get Lanfan. So it's like, no, you gotta go get her. And as they're driving by, you have King Bradley, you know, Fear Bradley, see, oh, I think that was one of Mustang's men. So that little upstart thinks he can get me, huh? Or like in Japanese, so the little punk is at it, huh? Both are great, but I love that in Japanese. I'll show you, you little punk.
But speaking of the awesomeness that is the Habercorn, when he was lifting up Gluttony, that little cable ball thing, I was just thinking to myself, God damn, Ling Yao, how do you do that? 4,000 years of Chinese bullshit. That's how. Now get it in the car, or in his case, 4,000 years of Jing bullshit.
Yep. And that is true, because we're just like, wow, there's feats of strength, like I said. But it's just great. But yet it shows how Ling Yao's an awesome character, which he is pretty damn cool, I'm not going to lie. You also have, the Elric brothers trying to finally continue their fight against Scar. All of a sudden, you have Mei Chang come out of nowhere, basically get in front of him, and she's like, "You will not hurt my master's servant." And then she, basically throws kunai everywhere, writes a alchemic circle in the sand or the dirt, and then all of a sudden, boom, 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 big explosions and stuff everywhere. Soldiers showed up, they get blinded, the Albrechts get blinded, and...
Well, they weren't just kunai, but I love what she did was, the kunai, you know how they usually have those feather tassels at the end? Instead, she customized her to have, Hanafuda talismans at the end, so that the kunai she used, in her circle that she basically kung fu kicked it into the dirt, had the same talismans, so that whatever she did to that one would get transmitted to the talismans that had the exact same markings on it. So it acted kind of almost like a sticky bomb, You toss the ones over here, you toss them over there, you make the main one, boom, detonation.
And then they basically get away, she helps Scar get away, and, they're all thinking, damn, we lost Scar. But, she treats Scar's wound, and then Scar's actually thinking about Winry. The look of Winry is stuck on his mind, and he's thinking, am I, doing the right thing here, or, destructive, reconstructive. Basically, he's starting to think about his whole thing again. And, she finishes with him, and then, Yoki, long time no see for him either, comes out of nowhere and says the military's on their way, they have to get going, so I believe they start taking off together. Mei Chang realizes something that's wrong. She's missing her little panda, which Alphonse has, and is treating it like a cat. And then, Edward's yelling at him, how many more streets are you going to pick up on? This isn't just a cat.
And I love how when he's petting it, it bites him. He's like, "Oh, that's okay, little angel." And you see this little pyramid in its mind of who it likes with Mei Ching at the top, and then all of a sudden, Al's at the top. It's like...
Yeah, and Scar was at the top, and then, Alphonse at the top, and Yoki and Edward were at the bottom, and they literally fall off the pyramid, just like... So, that was a little bit of nice animation. And then you have Edward and Alphonse get to the main headquarters, to where, funnily enough, they're meeting up with Winry, and then who should be there but Führer Bradley, who's meeting with Winry, and, he's basically just talking with her, saying, I'm just here to make sure one of the, your friends is safe. Any friend of our biggest state alchemist, has to be well protected, and I wanted to check in. And, at this time, you have Alphonse and Edward really not trusting the Führer that much, so he leaves, but as soon as he leaves, he's like, it's good for you to have friends. Keep her close. Sort of he's being nice about it, but you can sort of hear in both, not really so much in the Japanese, because again, they do everything proper, and respectfully, but with the way Ed Blaylock said it, he's like, keep her close. Sort of in his voice, you hear the very thinly veiled threat, almost, that, haha, we possibly have leverage against you two now if we need it.
Well, that's the thing. I think with the Japanese, they didn't emphasize it because he probably already knew that Edward and Al were probably friends with Mustang, and that he probably roped him in on his investigation. So all he had to really do with the Japanese was just say, it's good to have friends. Keep them close, because, look how many they've already lost. But in the American version, they probably decided, let's forego a little bit of the subtlety and just bring some of that Brad Shad creepy back.
Yeah, which again, credit to Ed Blaylock, great job again for that, because again, and I'll just say it really quick, you can think about other famous actors who could do it, and I know Ed Blaylock hasn't, as far as I know, he hasn't done a whole lot of voice acting work from at least the stuff I've owned, but I can't think of nobody better to do Bradley because it's just his voice and the way he stylizes the character. Whether in this or the original, he's just so damn good as Bradley. I've always enjoyed it. Which, again, that's why when they do the reveal later in the original, I hated it because I really liked, Fear Bradley, and I wish he wasn't an evil character. I'm like, ah, damn. I just like Ed Blaylock's voice and the way the character is, and it's like, oh, that sucks. But either way, neither here nor there with that. And then, as you can imagine, the Elrics talk to Winry, and they finally get a chance to sit down, and they tell her the whole truth, or at least Edward tells her the whole truth about what happened to her parents, Scar's involvement, everything that happened in the Ishvalan War that he heard about. And, she says, so, at least they died protecting people and doing what they loved right to the very end. Still, is it selfish of me that I wish they could have came back home? And then, sure enough, she's on the train. She's happy that the Elrics told him, but they're both looking at her concerned because she's sort of doing that, slumped over on the train or bus or vehicle, depressed, and, they're just wondering about her, making sure she's going to be okay. And then, she says again in her mind, all I can do is wait. And then, they get back to the hotel to where she learns from the concierge that she has a call. And what is, it's, what if I have his name here, oh no, I didn't write it down, but it's basically her gay or very effeminate, auto mechanic manager who she works for, and she's like, could you come back soon? I'm getting overwhelmed, and I can't do the work as well as you can. And then you basically have everybody get on the phone, from kids to elderly gentlemen to all these people who have automail in this town, and they're absolutely loving her. I need you to work on my arm. I need you to do this. Yeah, we miss you, Winry. Yeah, we all miss her. Everybody knows that. Hey, we can't wait to see you. We appreciate you. And then you just see her beam up and say, so this is what it's all for. So this is what the Elrics were talking about. And then It's like she understands that she does have a place. She is needed. She does more than wait. She helps out the Elrics. She was a friend to the Hugheses. She's important to the people in Rush Valley more than she ever could have thought. So she gets on the train, ready to head back to Rush Valley, to where, she's saying, like, I understand what I need to do, and hey guys, and they're like, what? Don't die, and they're like, and then all of a sudden, you think Edward's gonna say something real nice to her, but he's like, Winry, I wanna be. She's like, wait, what'd you say? He's like, I'm gonna make sure the next time I see you, you're gonna cry tears of joy, because we'll have our bodies back, and they're gonna be happy tears, and not bad. And then she's like smiling at him, and they're doing their farewell, and Alphonse is doing a dig, and Edward's like doing his whole monster gnashing teeth, yelling face at him, saying, don't make fun of me. And she sits back and she realizes, after seeing the backside of Edward one more time, oh, am I falling in love with him? And like in English, Caitlin Glass gave it a bit more of a questioning thing, and in Japanese, being more respectful again, it's like she already knew she was falling for him, because she gave it as a statement more than a question.
And since we forgot his name, we'll just call her very masculine automail manager and alchemist anime Freddie Mercury.
Oh yeah, Freddie Mercury, baby.
I want my automail to be free, baby.
And then all of a sudden, as the Elrics are leaving, we have Roy Mustang pull up in a car, and he picks them up, and they're going to see Roy Mustang's friend and obviously partner in crime, Dr. Knox, who he wants Dr. Knox to help them out with somebody, and Dr. Knox, who is, works the morgue, I guess was also a doctor, which he tells Mustang, oh, I gave that up, and he's like, well, I don't want to get you involved and hurt your family. He's like, oh, you don't need to worry anymore. I lost my wife after the Ishvalan War, so basically saying, well, I ain't got nothing left to lose, let's go. And that's where they go to this outhouse where they were or not outhouse, but abandoned cabin a little outside of Central City. And, he's obviously working on lawn fawn, and he's like, well, man, she's all messed up. I'll do my best, but this ain't going to be pretty. And then both in Japanese and English. Let's see, I have the voice here. Let's see, Lan Fan. Oh yeah, Nana Mizuki, Trina Nishimura gives like painful screams. Nana Mizuki was pretty bad, but oh man, Trina Nishimura lets out a blood curdling one that I admit I cringed at that because and you just hear sinew and everything. I was like, I'm like,
that was easily a 9 out of 10 Higurashis, if you know what that means.
Yeah, and so they're working on her. She's going through all that. You have them all discussing gluttony and just wondering about it, but then all of a sudden,
he what's it called? They were saying they were telling the doctors like, no, the fat guy in the cables over there, that's a homunculus, and they're talking like, he's a friend of the Führer, and Ling Yao's like, a friend? No, it goes more than that. The Führer himself, your king, he's a homunculus. I saw the Ouroboros tattoo on the eye when it wasn't covered by the eye patch. And of course, they start talking. It's like, wait a minute, how can he be a homunculus? He's growing older. They're not supposed to age, and they're like,
or reproduce because I mentioned his son Salim.
And the doctor, of course, is like, yeah, but the son's adopted, so there's still a possibility he could be. And of course, then they get to arguing. It's like Ling Yao wants to keep gluttony for his Philosopher's Stone for the immortality. Roy Mustang wants it to cure that one guy's spine.
Jean Havoc, yeah.
And of course, the Elrics want to keep it because they need to study it to make their own Philosopher's Stone to get their bodies back.
Yep, and Dr. Knox is like, I'm gonna do it for this. I'm going home. And before we get to the part right at the ending, we forgot to mention too, which it's a little tiny thing, like Ling Yao apologizes to the Elrics saying the plan went good, but it didn't go as well as planned, and you can see where he's really bothered by failing Lan Fan, messing up the plan, because you can see where he's really hurting himself. Says, I messed up, I failed. What type of a ruler am I going to be? How am I going to face my family? How am I going to be able to live this down to Lan Fan? So you can see Ling Yao is really, just like, to the whole thing. And again, great performances by Mamoru Miyano and, of course, Todd Haberkorn, who played him in English.
And the funny thing is, once they're done patching up Lan Fan, spoiler warning there, she's like, I'm going to be useless to my king without a new arm. And Edward, of course, gets the bright idea. I know a great automail mechanic. Hint, hint, hint.
Yeah, we'll probably get to it when she does get the arm, but I guess a lot of fans are a little upset with Lan Fan because where Edward went through hell, apparently everybody says she gets the arm, and she's like, I'm instantly fine. And I'm like, I'll have to see that because apparently, for as popular as the show is, people have picked up on the little nuances that don't make sense in the show, and a lot of people are mad about it. But the one I disagreed with when I read the list, because I'm like, certain characters getting away with scratches, but then being like, we're instantly fine. I'm like, yeah, I can understand that, because that can happen a lot. But somebody said that Edward Elric was a Mary Sue because he can figure out things instantly, and he gets away without consequence. And I'm like, oh, no. Whether the original or Brotherhood, he goes through a lot of shit. I would definitely not call Edward Elric a Mary Sue, but
yeah, plus you have to take into account the training he got from that one lady, because she was brutal with them.
Oh, Izumi Curtis, yeah.
Not only that, the kid's got like one mechanical arm, one mechanical arm and leg. He's got practically god-tiered alchemy. He's been trained by literally one of the best soldiers that world has ever seen. He's received further training for the military. He's not a Mary Sue. He's an anti-Mary Sue. This kid has had to earn his shit the hard way.
Well, yeah, and look at all the friends and people they've lost and what they've learned along the way. So, that, like I said, that was the biggest one on that list that really made me that. But, I'll admit, if Lan Fan's like, I get this automail arm and I'm fine, I'm like, yeah, that's a bit shit, because you look at all the... And people are like, well, Edward was a kid. I'm like, that may be so, but if she's never had it before, yeah, you'd be going through some trouble. I don't care how good of a ninja you were, so...
Well, yeah, not only that, it would actually be harder for her because, now her arm's going to be heavier. It's going to have a different reaction time from the other one. So as a martial artist, she's gonna have to like completely rework how she distributes her body weight, her movement, everything around this new heavier arm.
And remember what she said during the first episode where her and Lin Yao show up along with her father, Pow. It's like, she says you're too slow, and that's because she sees how he's got that arm and that leg, because that does slow Edward down just a little bit. And, it's like, hey. But again, we'll debate that when we see the episode where she gets that.
Strangely enough, there was actually a great Overwatch comic that kind of actually talks about this, where like you see Mercy working on Genji, and she's like, your reaction time still hasn't recovered yet. He's like, it's the difference in weight between my two arms. Why don't you just cut the flesh one off and put another metal one so that I can be balanced in my movements? It's like, are you crazy? That's insane. It's one of the few things you have left. They want me to be a weapon. I'm useless if I can't get my balance and stability back.
Yeah, I mean, that's a great point. And then, all in all, to what we talked about, though, by this point, Gluttony's struggling, trying to escape, and as they're all funnily arguing over Gluttony, Gluttony hears the name Roy Mustang, and then he has flashbacks of Lust, and then he's like, Roy Mustang's the one that killed Lust. I will have my revenge against Roy Mustang! And, like, he basically grows big, breaks through the bonds. All of a sudden, Riza Hawkeye's outside keeping guard. She hears something. She's about to go in. She has her rifle in her clutch. And then all of a sudden, boom! Big, huge explosion outside that happened inside the house that like basically blows part of the wall out. And then all of a sudden, you're looking at Gluttony. Oh yeah, and when Gluttony, I forgot, part of his stomach opened at the side. You just saw this eyeball
with like these teeth and this tongue, and it's like his stomach turns into this demonic mouth with an eye in it.
Yeah, and basically that's what Riza Hawkeye sees. She looks in and she sees Gluttony just with all these teeth and huge thing, and like just like he becomes this monster man, and pretty much that's when the episode ends in preparation for the next one. And so that was basically the plot. Characters. This one for me is going to be really quick because honestly, I can say for all the main characters I have written down here, Edward Elric, Alphonse Elric, Ling Yao, Lon Fan, Winry Rock Bell, King Bradley, Roy Mustang, Riza Hawkeye, Scar, Mei Chang, Gluttony, Nox, Yoki. It's like everybody involved was really good in this episode. I had really no favorites over anybody, and I'd have to say, pretty much, if anything, I would give this episode a tie with the edge going to the Japanese, because the Japanese was, I think, a little bit better in this episode than the English, but again, the English dub was really good. Great performances by Vic Mignogna, Maxie Whitehead, Todd Haberkorn, Trina Nishimura. Again, that scream as Lon Fan just sent chills down my spine, Caitlin Glass's Winry, gotta love it. Same thing with Megumi Takamoto. Let's see, Hidekatsu Shibata, Ed Blaylock, King Bradley, as Jericho says, you're the Chad. Travis Willingham, Shinichiro Miki, Great Roy Mustang, Colin Klingabeer, Tomiko Orikasa for as good as they were in the episode, for the short time they were there. J. Michael Tatum, Kenta Biake, not going to complain about you at all. Scar, great performance. Mai Goto and Monica Rial, as much as I find you a bit distasteful, great performances. Yeah. Sorry, Monica, we're not going to let you down for that, sadly, because if I forgive you for that, that's probably going to be years after I swallow that bitter pill, and I mean years, and I'm talking probably 10 to 20 years in the future, because I'm not done living that down yet. But we're not going to get into that, because you've heard me and Jared talk about that en masse in quite a few of these videos already. Tetsu Shiratori, Chris Kaysen for Gluttony, let's see, Kinryu Orimoto, R. Bruce Elliott for Nox, Barry Yandel for Yoki, Yuzuru Fujimoto for him as well. I mean, again, everybody, I'm sorry, I said I wasn't going to make it long and I go through the whole fucking list, but everybody was really good in this episode, unless, did you find a character that stood out for you in this, Jarek?
Actually, yes. Ling Yao. Specifically, the Todd Haberkorn version, because the emotion he shows and emotes for Lanfan in this is absolutely wonderful, and I even have to give it up to Lanfan as well.
I can give that.
She wasn't in a lot of scenes, but when she was, English, Japanese doesn't even fucking matter at this point.
Yep.
But yeah, Todd Haberkorn really sold his concern for his subordinates, and even the humility in his voice he shows when he's apologizing to the Elrics for the plan not going correctly. Haberkorn really stole the show for me on this one, but I have to admit, Lanfan was a very close second and possibly even first with that scream. I mean, like seriously. And of course, I have to give credit to Caitlin Glass because her Winry is just so good.
Yes, it is, and I mean, I can second those three as well. I mean, for me, that's why it was a hard pick. I was thinking about it too after the episode was done, and I'm like, I really don't think there was a character I liked or disliked even more in this one because everybody played their roles really well. Even the supporting cast members who were in this episode did a great job. I mean, so the voice acting in episode 23, superb. I would say, I know Simon's been telling me to do 10 cups out of tea, so if I do 10 cups of tea, I'd give it a 10 cups out of tea, so, that's good shit.
Indeed.
And final thoughts is, this is where everything starts ramping up big time. There will be a little bit of a cooldown, but it's only a tiny bit of a cooldown. Everything in these episodes is where they discover everything going forward, and then it's taking the fight to them. Now, we're still in the discovery bits of it, but this is where everything starts to hugely ramp up for the homunculi, the fighters, everybody involved. You like a show, and that's the majority of me for certain anime. Now, again, if you guys haven't caught on to this, Brotherhood is the OVA version of Fullmetal Alchemist, where it's original video animation or based off the manga, and it's basically more based to that, where, and I'll say this as a side note, because I know we have to get going here, but, when they did the original, the manga was only half done, so it wasn't even fully completed, but they had notes, and they talked to Hiromu Arikawa, the original creators of the anime, and they created an original story, because basically Conqueror of Shambhala was partly written by Hiromu Arikawa. She gave ideas, characters, and things there, so Hiromu Arikawa was both involved in these shows pretty well, but you have to say for the original, they came up with an original idea for the show pretty damn well without the manga being fully completed. So yes, Brotherhood, I would say, is an OVA where it's everything to the letter, as most OVAs usually are, and the original was an original concept. Not completely, but they only had the first half of the manga to work with, so they can only do what they can. But that's why I also like the original too, because it's a great original story towards the end and where they had to get to. And again, like I said, there's no father involved, and I know a lot of people like Father. Father is a good villain, but I don't know. I mean, again, it's that, like, I'm a character who just wants it all, and after talking to Jarek and seeing that, it's like, yeah, maybe I can, like, see things differently, but again, it's like, I don't know. I like it when there's a bit more of a human element involved, and not just like, I'm a science creation that goes mad.
And I just realized with the way Greed's stomach opens up and he's
gluttony, not greed.
Oh yeah, gluttony, and he's just like basically eating everything and then just explosively shooting it out. I thought to myself, wait a minute, is he anime Kirby?
Ooh. But either way, as you ponder that point, and please don't ponder for too long because that can make you sick after a while. What do you guys think? Have you guys been following along with us at all, or do you like it? Because I will say on a side note here, and besides Jarek, also we gained 2 more subscribers again, so we've gone from 39 to 42 at the moment. I mean, that could always change again, but at the moment when I last checked, 42 subscribers for the channel. But also as well, I've noticed the last couple of Fullmetal Alchemist reviews have gotten right off the bat 42, 31, and so reviews. So I noticed I've turn some people onto this. So again, if you guys want, just let us know what you think and see if you've been along. And just let me know what you think about Fullmetal Alchemist Brotherhood in general. Just tell us what you think, because we'd like to hear from you guys. But until then, this is 012 Boku and
Jarek.
And we'll see you guys again later, alright? Deuces.
See ya.